Welcome back to Hey Kentucky. The city of Louisville is hurting, trying to figure out how to move forward. There have been protests for Breonna Taylor, among other people. Another man was shot and killed by police. We're still learning more information about that. To talk about all of it, I'm so pleased to welcome in State Representative Attica Scott, who's joining us for the first time. Thank you so much for being on the show.
I appreciate you having me.
Tell me a little bit about what the feeling is like in the city of Louisville. You've been out in the protests. What is it like?
It varies from day to day. That's how emotionally and mentally draining it is. Over the weekend, it felt extremely unsafe to be around law enforcement if you were standing up for Breonna Taylor and her life. And even, yesterday, if you were downtown. But it also, I have to say, yesterday when we were out in mourning and in celebration of the life of Mr. McAtee, there was love and there was resistance and it was community. So for me, I've experienced all of it. So it's been emotionally draining.
This is something, what we're seeing is a call to action. So Mayor Greg Fischer did fire the police chief, but there have still been no arrests in the Breonna Taylor killing. What do you think about what Mayor Fischer has done through this process? Has he been forward-thinking enough?
Well, Breonna Taylor was murdered on March 13th, and so we're now in June. So he only took action because he was pushed to take action by protesters. And so if this was really for him about Breonna Taylor and justice for her and her family, that action should have been taken months ago. And so you're absolutely correct that the three officers who are complicit in her murder have not been fired. And we still have no resolution around some big policy issues like no-knock warrant, for example. We've got to be able to move forward and chart a path that's driven by policy and that centers the people who have their necks most under the foot of law enforcement.
There have been calls for Mayor Fischer to resign. Do you echo those?
I do. I am so disappointed. I'm on Friday, I made it clear I was disgusted because my daughter and we were tear gassed. And I was pushed and shoved by a police officer. And the mayor's response was to work with the governor to bring in the National Guard. And that did not help. That just escalated things. So he has been a complete failure these past couple of weeks.
What about Governor Beshears' response?
Well, he sent in the National Guard. So of course that disturbs me. And so many of us knew that something violent would happen by bringing in the National Guard. There is no good relationship between law enforcement and Black communities as a whole. Yes, one or two people or a handful might have some good relationships, but as a whole, that's not the case. And he chose to bring in the National Guard, and a valued member of our community ended up dead.
Do you feel like this goes beyond Breonna Taylor and is a much longer standing issue in the city of Louisville?
It's a long-standing issue in Louisville, in Kentucky, and across the country, and that's why we're seeing the acts of resistance that we're seeing, the protests across the country, because we're done. Black people are done with being the punching bag for law enforcement, literally and figuratively. And so people are rising up and they're saying no more. And right here in the city of Louisville, we're saying no more.
In your position, you have the ability to affect policy change. Talk a little bit about the bill that you are going to present.
Definitely. So I've been working with people in community, attorneys, for years actually, on legislation related to police accountability. So I will file yet again a bill to have an independent investigation of police shootings and deadly incidences. I will also be filing a bill related to no-knock warrants, as well as repealing Kentucky's Stand Your Ground law. We do not need wannabe police officers thinking that they can take any kind of action against people just because they think they're so-called deputized because of Stand Your Ground laws here.
State Representative Attica Scott, thank you so much for fighting, for protesting, for being out there and making your voice heard. We appreciate you joining us today.
Thank you.
All right, much more Hey Kentucky right after this.